Lindsay, what do you want to talk about?
Can I sing about it?
I mean, like, I don't want to get demonetized here, but...
Well, let's just say that this video is going to be
Yeah. Wicked. Wicked awesome. Right? I don't know. So yeah, we just saw Wicked again. We sat through it for the purposes of this video, I suppose. It's quite the journey to get here. And honestly, I wouldn't change it for anything. This movie is wicked awesome, as we talked about in the weird cold open that we just did. But yeah, why don't we just go ahead and start with your history of with Wicked? Like, how much do you love this show?
Well, I kind of was in that 12-year-old phase for a bit, and then I forgot about it. I listened to some songs here and there, but this kind of brought back my love for it. But I did see it in, I think, 2009 when it came to Pantages in LA. My family went to see it, and this is the necklace I got at the show. So I've actually gotten to see it live. It was one of the first shows I saw, so it is a special show to me, and it's very emotional. I cried many times during this movie.
As I said in the spoiler-free review, this is the first touring Broadway production I ever saw with my family. And I feel like I was very different from your reaction to it. I finished the show and I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, no, it's a really awesome spectacle. I never feel the need to watch it again. But with the movie coming out, like I said in the spoiler-free video, here I am watching it again. And the movie won me over with the story, if I'm being completely honest. This movie rules. And in case you're new here, there's going to be some spoilers in this video, so you've been warned. Pause the video if you haven't watched Wicked yet. Go check it out and then come right back. But let's just dive right into it. First off, I mean, the fact that the Wizard of Oz is a villain, like, and a fraudulent villain of all things, like, I think it's brilliant.
Did you not expect that?
No, I know the show.
Okay.
I know the show. I've seen it before, but I just love that is one of...
He's a villain in Wizard of Oz, too.
Not really. He's just a mousy...
He sent her to kill the witch because he couldn't do it himself.
He's a mousy fraud. Like, you know, the Wicked Witch is the classic villain, but this story, Wicked completely flip-flops it. Yeah. In a way that it makes sense, you know. It
does.
But when the wizard is going up to Elphaba and he's like, look, you and I, we could rule the galaxy together. Like, with his nice little sandbox. You know, like, I love...
Step into
my sandbox. Yes, life finds a way. Yes, the bricks should be yellow. I do like that color. They shouldn't be blue or green because
Purple.
You know, obviously you're green, Elphaba. Let's make it yellow. That was my Jeff Goldblum impression. I'm trying here, guys. But anyway, yeah, I just think all the changes that they make to the story and how tragic they make Elphaba's backstory. And
changes to the story in Wizard of Oz story, or changes from Broadway to...
The changes from the Wizard of Oz story.
Okay.
You know.
Because the changes from the movie Wizard of Oz to Wicked is a lot, but the change from the Broadway musical to the film adaptation, honestly, there's not that many changes, except for certain scenes that are obviously made for film, that they have full freedom to do whatever they want with and make it bigger than you can on stage. But I wouldn't even call that a change. I would just call that like an enhancement. Yeah.
And the fact that this movie also, like, first of all, the fact that it uses mainly practical effects and millions of dancers, it looks like, in one frame. Like, the direction of this movie is insane. Jon M should absolutely direct every single adaptation of a Broadway musical to film from now on.
I read that they planted the poppies for the kids to run through.
Oh, yeah.
Those are not CGI. I mean, the big full effect of all of Oz is a CGI effect. But when the kids are going, she's dead! The witch is dead!
Like
they're running through a poppy field. They are running through a poppy field because they grew a poppy field.
It's a legit poppy field, guys. It's freaking awesome. Munchkin Land looks like it's actually there. I mean, obviously, when Ariana Grande as Glinda, like, floats down in the bubble for the first time, the bubble CGI.
Glinda.
Well, Glinda in some forms, in some parts of the story. But when we first see her in that opening musical number, this is after Elphaba had been melted and after she died. You know, Glinda floats down in the bubble, and the point is, you know, it's like you can tell that's CGI. You absolutely can.
Yeah, but how else would they do that for a movie? I know the musical.
I'd put Ariana Grande in a big fat bubble. You know, practical.
But how
Why
do
not?
you make that? You can't pop the. Okay.
They figured it out in the 30s.
What?
They figured out like how to do all the practicals in the 30s for everything. Aluminum paste on the Tin Man, copper makeup for the Wicked Witch. That
Made them
movie,
both almost die.
that movie was not safe at all. And I'm so glad that the production values have evolved to the point where it looks as safe as it is. And the actors, there's no instances of actors like almost dying on set. Even though
her makeup wasn't CGI either. Cynthia Erivo had a choice to make. She could either CGI it or get painted, and she chose to get painted. And it takes, you know, hours and hours to do the work and 45 minutes to take off. I read that it takes about probably 2 hours to at least get like the basics of it on, because it's not just her face, it's her hands, but it has to be smooth and it has to be perfect. But it's interesting that, like, you know, it's not lead, it's not radium, there's nothing in it that will kill her. It's probably just a really good colored foundation that do exist right now, like a water-based foundation.
if there's any filmmaker out there that wants to use a lead-based makeup, I would recommend passing and just quitting the art altogether, because that's just not a good idea. It's not. I mean, Margaret Hamilton, poor thing, almost died on the set of the original Wizard of Oz because she caught fire.
Yep.
Her hands burned almost to a crisp. Yeah, you know, thank goodness Cynthia Erivo is being taken care of in a much better, in a much safer way, I guess. I mean, even though she's doing her own stunts.
That was crazy to see behind the scenes of she does her own stunts, especially during Defying Gravity. Obviously, there has to be some CGI. She's flying in front of a green or a blue screen, but that's because it's literally impossible to make her fly on a broomstick.
Yeah.
Unless it's like some sort of rocket that would be unpredictable and she could die. But I saw a behind the scenes video of it, and she's literally in like a spinning
she's doing like triple Lindy's on set, and
while
she's like
singing
strapped
live.
in. Yeah.
While singing live, because she and Ariana chose to sing live during filming instead of what most actors do in musicals, or in film musicals, where there's the music that they're playing for you. They played instrumentals with the backgrounds of everyone else in it. I mean, it's my assumption.
Her dedication to this part and her passion in this role should garner her an Oscar nomination for leading actress, if not a win.
I hope a win. I really hope a win. She deserves a win.
I honestly think she's a shoo-in this year.
Yes.
I think this movie, honestly, is a shoo-in for a lot of categories. Best Picture is not out of the question. Don't overlook this movie because it's a musical. In the Heights wasn't nominated a few years ago.
It's also one of the best musical adaptations I've ever seen.
Oh, and no question.
I know it's part 1 and part 2, and that a lot of us are upset about that. But honestly, it's 2 hours and 40 minutes. I have a difficult time sitting through anything that's more than an hour and 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to sit through this probably because it's a musical. Or I also have a connection to it, so it's easier for me to watch. But in general, all their added parts blended and melded perfectly to the point where, because I haven't seen the show in years, I really had to focus in and be like, is this part of the show, or is this something they added, like dialogue or scenes? And besides the obvious stuff they added, which is all of Elphaba's childhood, because obviously the musical,
yes,
I think they just mention it in like a story time type of setting, or Elphaba says it, or there's a narration, I forget.
Or like Glinda has a whole monologue in the opening number, basically explaining Elphaba's whole backstory.
Yeah, this is just different in a good way. Like, they gave her a childhood to see, and it's small portions that it doesn't feel rushed, but it also doesn't feel like they spent too much time focusing on her past, because the movie is more about her growth. So
do you think like a story like this, especially now that the movie's out, do you think theater can kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say restrict the story from being told in the way that they would want it to, but when you see stuff on stage, it's like you're only seeing a select amount of things because it's live performance, right? Mm-hmm. You can't really edit in a whole backstory while Galinda is just singing her heart out. You know, I mean, you could, but it's just a lot to look at.
You could do that with different actors, but sometimes it's difficult to have. I mean, Broadway is a whole other story, and off-Broadway of having, you know, children in theater, because they do that all the time. But if it was something to go past that, it would be really difficult to make it available for communities who want to put on that show, because you can't always have kid characters and adult characters. It just sometimes it depends. Like schools couldn't do it, for example.
No.
But it's
absolutely.
I think it just depends on how they do it, if they decide to restrict or not. But I think if they really tap into what they can do and who they have available or who they could get to be available, then they could do stuff like the movies. It's just not going to be as grand.
I'm sure, like, 25 years down the line, once the rights to Wicked are finally released out into the open, like, if they are ever released,
I don't
like...
think they'll ever be released.
Well, I mean, Phantom of the Opera just closed, and, like, those rights are probably going to be, you know, up, and community theaters and high schools are going to want to do that show like nobody else, but... I don't know. Only time will tell. But yeah, I can't even imagine a high school, let alone a community theater, trying to do this one justice.
There's just too many people in it.
Yeah, too many people in it. You know, too much production value that goes into it. But you never know.
But it's a great show. And honestly, like, there's a whole thing where a lot of the people who are watching this movie in theaters are just watching it and being like, oh, okay, that's new. And you can kind of tell who is new to it or not connected to it kind of by people's reactions. Like, we were walking in the parking lot, people were like, oh, Popular, I thought it'd be this and that. And I'm like, okay, Ariana Grande fans who thought Popular would be Ariana Grande's Popular. No. She also changed her voice to be Glinda, so she didn't do her version of it. Like, she didn't make it poppy. She made it character, like she's supposed to. And then there's people like me who are bawling their eyes out at the end of the show, at the end of the movie, because
man,
I have a connection to it, and I know I can tap into the emotions of just the characters. And I'm not saying that if you don't have a connection to it, you can't cry with it or whatever, but it's more obvious that the theater kids... Obviously, it's a musical. The theater kids are coming.
Yeah. Oh, the theater kids, clearly. The theater kids are coming.
There's just so much emotion in it because you see just kind of like, I guess, seeing it come to life after, I don't know, over 10 years of not being anywhere. Like, yeah, there's slime tutorials online.
This movie, I feel like, had been in development hell for a while. So I think it's almost like, judging from the track record of movies like this that are stuck on the working table for years on end, it's a miracle that this movie came out as great as it did. And again, Cynthia Erivo, Oscar worthy. Ariana Grande, for that matter. I mean, I would recommend giving her an Oscar nomination too, just because of her work in this. And she was so damn funny, even watching it a second time. And I mentioned this in the spoiler-free video. A lot of what Glinda does in this show, and in this movie in particular, it makes her kind of a bitch in a lot of cases, you know, because there's a case where she doesn't get her way, and her friends are like, what happened? And then she's like, I didn't get my way. And then she has to be carried off. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, you can't help but, like, even though, yes, there's a lot of what she does that would deem her unlikable to a lot of people, but it's how Ariana Grande plays it. That's the trick there.
There were things I saw, like, nods to Kristen Chenoweth as well. And that could just be because Ariana, like, not studied under, but, like, knows Kristen Chenoweth and had recommendations and got actually probably talked to her through this. But
yeah. Well, not only studied under Kristen Chenoweth, but I'm sure she borrowed a little bit from what Billy Burke did in the 1939 film. And I didn't even mention Billy Burke in that original review I did for The Wizard of Oz. Magnificent performance on her part. But Lindsay was also showing me some, like, TikToks after we saw Wicked the first time of Dorothy singing about how the Wicked Witch of the East died. And then Billy Burke as Glinda's just sitting there like, okay, yeah, shut up. Shut up. I know this whole story. So I know
like,
everything that happened.
She's also literally, like, spoiler for the second movie, I guess.
Nope. I'm
just kidding.
Nope. Yeah,
Just
so,
kidding, I'm just
okay,
kidding.
let's set the record straight. This is going to be a 2-part movie. Wicked Part 1 here, which we're talking about, basically ends where the intermission of the Broadway show is, which is wild.
Which is perfect.
It is perfect.
Because people will be like, wow, that's such a perfect ending. Yeah, because it's intermission and there's supposed to be a break.
It's intermission. There's supposed to be a break. So, Lindsay and I know what happens in Wicked Part 2. We basically know the entire movie that's coming out next year, and we're not going to give away shit to you guys, because we know how certain characters evolve. We know what they change into. We know how the relationship between Elphaba and Glinda pans out. We know how it all ends. We know the twists. We're not going to give you any of that, though. We're just going to, if you've never seen Wicked, we're going to let you enjoy it. But I will say, Defying Gravity ending this movie, there's a part of me that feels like, okay, since I've seen the show, I know this is not the complete story.
Yeah.
But it's still a great ending.
It's a great ending that can satisfy those who don't, don't like, I mean, nobody really likes part 1, part 2, however, to be continued movies and stuff. But.
Nope.
Especially because they take so long. But it's even the way they chose to end it, if something were to happen and Wicked Part 2 just couldn't come out or didn't come out or they weren't planning on it or didn't get the rights to it, whatever it may be. Like,
it's going to happen.
It is, but if something weren't going to happen, it would still be satisfactory to end it there for people who don't know the story, because they would be like, oh, that's how she became wicked. Everyone told her that she's the Wicked Witch. Like, if you don't know,
story.
If you don't know Wicked the musical, watching just the first part and then even like forgetting about the second part, you could just, the way it ends, she's called Wicked. She's like, I'm gonna fly away. That could be the ending, and then it's like, oh, that's how she became the Wicked Witch because everyone told her she's wicked.
Yeah, I just said it. It's her
part
origin
that you're
story.
missing, the part that you would be missing is how Glinda became Glinda, and obviously she's herself.
Yes.
This whole film, she's still a bubble. She is herself.
She is a bubble.
But obviously, just that's more of what you don't get to see, is you wouldn't get to see that stuff, but that's what the second movie is for.
You get to see what happens with Bach. You get to see what happens with Fiyero. You get to see what happens with Elphaba's adorable sister Nessa Rose, who is wheelchair bound for a lot of this. And
all of it, right?
All of it, yeah. But I will say, like, the flashbacks and like the childhood sequences.
The little girl they cast for Nessa Rose is so cute. Her little... Why? It's so cute. I love it. And honestly, I think the actress that they hired for young Elphaba is really good too, because you can see that she's giving like older sister babysitter of like, see, this is what happens in the book, and that's what happened in real life. Like, I saw how adults talk to children, but it also shows like she had to mature so early and wasn't really treated like a kid. Because she's, I don't know, I forget the age gap between her and her sister, but...
I forget too.
Just seeing them as little kids was, one, nice, because you got to see their relationship without it just being like, this is my sister, it's shiz.
Yeah.
Like, you actually got to see them know each other more. So
yeah.
That's what I appreciated.
I appreciated also that this movie had loads of clever Easter eggs just hidden in the choreography. And again, as someone who knows the show and knows how it ends... I loved Dancing Through Life, this version specifically, because if you know the show and you look at the choreography, you're like, okay, movie, yeah, I see what you're doing there with Fiyero. And Jonathan Bailey, again, like, Lindsay's trying to get me to watch Bridgerton, and honestly,
he doesn't sing in Bridgerton.
I know, but his performance here, I'm like, man, I wish he sings in Bridgerton, because what a phenomenal freaking voice, man.
Yes.
Like, my word, I'm jealous of him. I'm so jealous of him. But, okay, you want to talk about Easter eggs? You want to talk about the big spoiler?
I've got a couple.
Yeah, you got a couple?
So, a couple Easter eggs / things that were just nods to Wizard of Oz is the horse of a different color.
Yes.
So, when we first introduced to Fiyero, he's riding in on this horse in the night. And then you see the horse again in brighter light. You can, if you're really paying attention, if you have really good, I guess, like, eyesight with color, because I know everybody's kind of different with their color, or if you're colorblind or whatever, you might not notice it at first, because it is a darker scene, and the horse is in the dark, and literally only in that for, like, 5 seconds.
Mm.
But once he trots into Shiz, the horse is blue, like a bright navy blue. And
it matches his uniform that he's wearing too.
And it's blue. That's not normal, but to some people who don't really like think of the Easter egg, it's just like, okay, he's got a cool horse. It's the horse of a different color, which was in Wizard of Oz, and that's a nod to when Dorothy and friends enter the city, and they're like, oh my gosh, a purple horse. I've never seen a horse. It's a horse of a different color. There's only one, and it's this one. And then throughout it changes color.
By the way, 1939, that horse was covered in Jell-O pudding to make that effect happen. They were going ham on the Technicolor gimmick back then, and they wanted to take every damn opportunity they could to show, hey, we're in Technicolor.
Yep.
Horse of a different color.
There was like 4 different colors on that horse, and this one was blue in the Wicked movie. And it's just a really cool nod to that. But my favorite nod... Well, actually, I've got 2.
Okay, you want to talk about it.
I've got 2.
Yep.
Second favorite and first top favorite. The second favorite one is the ruby slippers. Which I know are... And the silver slippers. Hold on, it's both.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, where are the ruby slippers? But then I remembered Popular. And
I'm cutting you off.
That's fine, that's fine.
The silver slip, because I'm excited. The silver slippers are the original book, are silver slippers. And pretty much any other adaptation of Wizard of Oz, they're silver, except for The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, because again, that movie was in Technicolor, and they thought that silver slippers would look a little bit too boring on the eye because of the color. You know, they're used to black and white movies, so they were like, oh, let's switch it over to red slippers, ruby slippers.
So the red ruby slippers and the silver slippers are obviously 2 different nods. So Nessa Rose is given a pair of beautiful silver slippers from her mother as like a parting gift to college.
Yes.
And so that's a nod to the silver slippers in literally any other adaptation.
In L. Frank Baum's original from the 1900s, yeah.
And the ruby slippers, a nod to the Wizard of Oz, appear in the song Popular when she's like, okay, we're going to get you popular. And if I could sing it, I would be singing it right now. But
don't want to get demonetized at all. Nope.
But she opens up her whole shoe rack pop-up suitcase thing, and the first and only pair of shoes we see her throw at Elphaba are the red ruby slippers. But my favorite part of this scene with the ruby slippers is that in the music, there's a lot of beats, like regular, and it's 1, 2, 3s. And so you hear her, she grabs the shoes, and she's like, and then hands them to her. So she clicks them
heels.
3 times.
She clicks the heels 3 times.
Yes. And then the red ruby slippers. Which, honestly, if you think too far into it, you could be like, oh, that's why she's obsessed with the ruby slippers. Because her best friend gave them to her. And now she wants to keep them. Like, you could connect it to Wizard of Oz if you really wanted to. But honestly, I think it was just a nod. I don't think it was a whole detail because that's not in the actual musical.
It might have been improvised. I think Ariana Grande improvised a lot in this movie. Which there's
fun.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all.
My top
ultimate
favorite.
This is the big spoiler.
This is the biggest spoiler.
This is the biggest spoiler.
Especially for theater goers. So if you want to skip this part, go for it. If you don't want to, here it is.
If you wanna not hear this, just let it go. Just let it go.
Thank you. On that note, the new scene that they changed is when in One Short Day, which is honestly one of my top favorite songs from this musical.
It is a good song. It's a really good song.
But in this song, in the musical, there's a game show, and it just says this whole short thing of like, this is how the wizard came here, and he came in a bubble, or in a hot air balloon. And so that's kind of what we get. In this, we get a whole little, like, theater story where they're like, welcome to the story by the Oz players.
Like the Oz,
or Emerald
City players, yep.
And so they're putting on this show, and then there's these 2 wise...
The wise souls, I think they were called. Yeah.
But they are, the people who, like, have the whole story to Oz and how everything's connected. The actors who play this Alright, Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, the two original Broadway Elphaba and Glinda.
The OGs. OGs, man.
My favorite part, I mean, it's all my favorite part, but what made me freak out, I think I accidentally, like, hit you, because I was so excited. I was just like, oh my god.
She left a bruise on my shoulder. Yeah.
But I was so excited that I just couldn't keep it in, and I couldn't scream in the theater, so I kind of just, I'm sorry. But I was so excited because, you know, they're talking about this and they're doing their whole thing and they're like, let everyone sing. Or they don't say that, that's later, but they're talking about it and they're like, and then they let out a note or whatever the lyric is. And then Idina Menzel does her whole,
yeah.
And it's perfect.
It's almost like she's calling out to the hot air balloon to come down from the sky in that sense. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no, this is really cool. But then, like, the second time watching it through, I'm like, okay, you're also kind of, like, telegraphing Cynthia Erivo doing the exact same thing at the end. But I do think it's a very cool, like, nod to the past.
I think it was just a nod. I don't know if it was a calling for the air balloon or whatever.
But,
I mean, in the same. But what they also did with Kristen Chenoweth is, which you'll see in Popular, because it's from Popular, in that song, in both the original and the musical movie, when she's trying to give her a makeover and simply has to take over.
Yes.
She has her training wand and she goes, ball gown, ball gown, ball gown. Basically her wand doesn't work. And that is both in the original, and I think Ariana Grande copied it so perfectly. She even did the, like,
ball gown.
Ball gown. Like, she did the whole, like, descending just notes and just, like, panic of, like, it's fine. Spread the fuck, it's fine.
I will say my favorite part of that Menzel Chenoweth cameo was the literal passing of the torch moment that they shared with their respective counterparts.
Better than the one.
Like, Chenoweth, like, gives Ariana Grande, like, hey, this is your moment, kid. Go for it. And then Idina Menzel and Cynthia Erivo are just slaying it together. Like,
it
was
nod.
really cool.
It's like your turn, you're doing great, like mother to daughter type of thing. And it was a beautiful scene.
Oh man,
and
don't say mother to daughter, man, because that musical premiered on Broadway like over 20 years ago.
Yeah,
that's wild.
From Popular with the wand, that's both in the original and the movie. On stage, when these two wise souls are trying to light up the grimoire and like be like, this is the grimoire. Idina Menzel's wand works perfectly. Kristen Chenoweth's does not work. It doesn't light up, and she just goes, and then just goes to Idina Menzel's and goes, boop. So it's a nod to the fact that in Popular, like, her wand wouldn't work, and that Elphaba's more powerful. And so it's just a beautiful nod to the original, and all theater goers that's a panicking moment. Like, a beautiful panicking, gonna cry moment, I'm gonna scream moment. Like, it was... And they somehow kept this so surprised and under wraps, at least for me.
Yeah.
I got one itty bitty spoiler right before we saw it. The day we saw it, I was scrolling on TikTok and this post was very minimal, but it was just like, when my reaction to the emerald scene, when the emerald scene comes on, or the like One Short Day scene, they used it interchangeably, but everyone in the comments was perfect. They were just like, wait, what scene?
They just kept quiet.
What? They kept quiet. But the people who knew it were like, oh my god, me too, this was perfect. And I'm just like, what? But TikTok ruined it for me. Not the people. TikTok's automatic search bubble, where if TikTok gets information from videos that are similar to this one, or what someone in that video is talking about, which it wasn't even talking about, it was like over a Wicked audio or music. So that's why this little search bubble that pops up when you open the comments at the top, you can click on, said Idina Menzel, Emerald City.
This is why you don't spoil shit online, guys.
But they didn't spoil. That's the thing, is it's hard because, like, at least the video didn't spoil it.
Better yet, that's why you don't search for spoilers online, because you're gonna get it's gonna be ruined. It's gonna be ruined. You're kind of asking for it at that point.
It was so small that I saw it. I didn't click on it because I didn't want anything, and I was just like, oh, okay. But then I kind of forgot about it till we got into theaters, and I was like, oh, but it was so much bigger than I expected, so it wasn't even ruined for me. It wasn't like,
They were in a whole ass
Hey.
scene.
Yeah, like when watching it, I was like, okay, she's probably just gonna be in the background somewhere and like wave. I really thought it was gonna be as small as that.
It wasn't like
but I didn't know Kristen Chenoweth would be in it too, and it was a whole sequence and scene and connection and just incredible.
It wasn't like a Stan Lee cameo in a Marvel movie.
No, and that's what I thought it would be like.
Yeah, no, it was
perfect.
So that's why we encourage all theater goers to go, and not just like theater goers, but I feel like if you're just a casual movie goer, if you love that original Wizard of Oz movie like I do, and I'm sure like you do also,
yes.
but yeah, absolutely recommend going to see Wicked. It's one of the top movies of the year for sure. I don't know where it ranks yet in my best movies of the year. You'll have to wait another month to find out where it sits.
I even dressed up.
Oh yeah. Wait, what?
I even dressed up.
Oh, you dress. So Lindsay clearly gives us an A++, as she usually does with these musical movies. But yeah,
I dressed up as Elphaba, and honestly, it was so perfect because I had the poofy sleeves. Like she had the poofy sleeves in the first scene that you see her as an adult at Shiz, and it made me so happy.
I'm wearing Fierro colors all the way.
I made him put a flannel under this because
she did not make me. It was my choice. It was my choice.
I made him wear a different flannel.
Super debatable.
Because it matched more of the pattern Fierro had, but he did choose this on his own.
Yeah, and I do think it's his color, yeah.
I added long sleeves to my dress. It was cold and rainy, so I wore like, fleece and leggings and all this stuff, but I had the perfect dress. I had my necklace. I did green eyeshadow because obviously Elphaba's green, but I wasn't going to show up in green.
Nope.
And then I wore black Converse because I don't own Victorian boots, but I so wish I did.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't want to wear those in the theater anyway.
No.
But yeah, no, that's our thoughts, our spoiler review of Wicked. We hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys are having a really nice Thanksgiving holiday as well. Hit that subscribe button if you're new. Tap on that thumbs up as well. This is not the last time you'll be seeing this one over here, that's for sure. And with how the channel is going to be adjusted into the new year, with the new type of content that we're going to be putting out, we're so excited to reveal what the channel has in store for you lovely people. This channel's on the road to 2,000 subscribers and counting, which is freaking wild. If you haven't joined in yet, what the heck are you waiting for, guys? So with all that being said, commence that back talk and go see Wicked. Go defy some gravity somewhere.